We've all been there, right? Walked into a classroom, maybe even a team meeting, and you just feel that energy, or sometimes the lack of it. Some rooms are buzzing, everyone's chipping in. Others, well, it feels more like a one-way street, doesn't it?
Definitely. That classroom vibe can be so palpable.
Exactly. And for years, I kind of wondered, how do you even measure that feeling? It seems so fluid.
Well, that's what makes our topic today really interesting.
It is. Today on the Deep Dive, our mission is to unpack this really fascinating tool. It's called the Flanders Interaction Analysis System, or FIAS for short.
FIAS, right.
We're aiming to give you, a shortcut to understanding these unseen forces in classroom communication, how teachers and students actually talk to each other.
And we're drawing from a pretty detailed presentation on FIAS, pulling out the key stuff.
Yeah, the most important nuggets. So get ready, because this might change how you see classrooms, maybe even your own meetings. It's like getting X-ray specs for conversation dynamics.
It really is quite remarkable thinking you can systematically analyze those quick, spontaneous moments.
Yeah.
What's so compelling is how FIAS tries to bring, structure to something that feels purely intuitive.
Okay, let's unpack this then. So at its core, what is this Flanders Interaction Analysis System? How does it actually work? How does it quantify conversation?
Right. So essentially, FIAS is a technique, a system for observing and then categorizing the verbal back and forth in a classroom.
Okay.
It's like a code book for speech. It breaks down everything. It's a teacher lecturing, asking questions, praising students, talking into specific categories.
So you're coding the conversation live.
Pretty much. The first step is called encoding. That's translating the live classroom interaction into these quick code numbers.
And then there's decoding, I gather, where the numbers become insights.
Exactly. That often involves something called a matrix, which we can get into. But first, that encoding. You mentioned speed. It happens every 3 seconds.
3 seconds? That sounds incredibly fast. How can anyone keep up, let alone be objective?
It is fast. And that frequency is key, actually. It captures the flow without missing the small shifts.
Okay.
So you have an observer, trained to be impartial, hopefully free from personal bias. They sit at the back, they memorize the 10 code number.
10 codes, got it.
And then snap. Every 3 seconds, they jot down the number for the category that best fits what just happened.
Wow.
Yeah, it works out to about 20, maybe 25 observations every minute. Just rapid fire.
And what if nothing changes in 3 seconds?
Good question. You just repeat the previous number.
Simple enough.
And if there's silence, say longer than 3 seconds, you record 10 for each 3-second chunk of silence.
Okay, that makes sense. It sounds incredibly precise, though, and this isn't some brand new idea, is it? It sounds established.
Oh, absolutely. It's got history. FIAS was developed way back in 1959 by Ned A. Flanders.
1959. Wow.
Yeah, at the University of Minnesota. It actually started as a technique for teacher training.
That longevity says something, doesn't it? It must be fundamentally useful.
It really does. It's proven effective for decades, even with all the changes in educational theory and practice.
So Flanders didn't just figure out how to observe, he figured out what to observe. These 10 categories, that sounds like the real core.
It is. It's the heart of the system. He broke down basically all verbal interaction into just 10 types. Think of it as a universal language for classroom talk.
Okay.
And these 10 fall into 3 main buckets: teacher talk, student talk, and then the catch-all, silence or confusion.
Right. Let's start with teacher talk. You mentioned it splits further. Indirect influence.
Yes. Teacher talk is split into indirect and direct influence. Indirect influence covers behaviors that encourage student participation. They draw students out.
Okay, like what?
Well, category 1 is accepts feelings. This is when the teacher acknowledges a student's emotion or attitude, but in a non-threatening way. Like, it sounds like you're feeling a bit frustrated with that problem, or even predicting or recalling feelings.
So it's about emotional validation, creating a safe space.
Precisely. Then category 2, praises or encourages. This is more than just good job.
Right.
It includes subtle things too, like nodding or just to show you're listening and want them to continue. Even jokes that lighten the mood count here.
As long as
they're not making fun of a student. That's a different category entirely.
Got it. Important distinction. What's next for indirect?
Category 3, accepts or uses pupil ideas. This is huge. Clarifying what a student said, building on their suggestion, developing their point further.
That sounds vital for making students feel heard and valued.
Absolutely. But there's a nuance. If the teacher takes the student's idea but then adds too much of their own stuff, it actually shifts.
Oh, to where?
It moves more towards direct influence, specifically category 5, which is lecturing. We'll get to that.
Okay, interesting line there. So what's the last one for indirect influence?
Category 4, asks questions. Pretty straightforward, asking questions about the content or maybe about procedure where you expect a student to answer. It's actively soliciting a response.
Right. So those 4 are about opening up the conversation, encouraging student input.
Exactly. Yep. Now, let's shift gears to the other side of teacher talk. Direct influence. This is where the teacher exerts more control.
Okay.
Category 5 is lecturing. This is probably what many people picture. Giving facts, opinions, sharing the teacher's own ideas, maybe citing some authority figure, essentially information delivery.
Makes sense. The classic lecture format.
Then category 6, giving directions, commands, orders, things where student compliance is expected. Open your books, line up, listen carefully.
Clear instructions.
And category 7 is criticizing or justifying authority. This is about managing behavior statements meant to stop a student doing something unacceptable. Or it could be the teacher explaining why they're making a certain demand.
So discipline or explaining the rules.
Right. And remember that joke rule. If a teacher makes a joke at the expense of a student or group of students, that gets coded as a 7.
Because it's a negative, controlling kind of interaction, even if disguised as humor.
Exactly. It undermines rather than encourages.
Okay, so that covers the 7 types of teacher talk, both indirect and direct. But classrooms aren't monologues, are they? What about the students?
Good point. The next 2 categories cover pupil talk. Category 8 is pupil talk response.
Response. So answering the teacher.
Pretty much. It's when a student speaks directly because the teacher asked them something or initiated the contact. Their freedom to introduce new ideas is a bit limited here. They're operating within the teacher's framework.
Okay, following the teacher's lead.
Then contrast that with category 9, pupil talk initiation.
Initiation, so they start it.
Yes. This is where students show more autonomy. They express their own ideas, maybe bring up a related topic the teacher hadn't mentioned, ask really thoughtful questions that go beyond the immediate structure.
That sounds like deeper engagement, taking ownership.
It really signals that. It shows they're thinking independently, developing their own lines of thought.
Okay, that's 9 categories. What's the last one?
Category 10 is simply silence or confusion.
The gaps.
Exactly. Pauses in the conversation, short breaks, or moments where, for whatever reason, the observer just can't understand what's being said. Maybe multiple people talking at once briefly.
So it's the catch-all for when discernible interaction stops or breaks down.
Precisely.
Wow, okay. That's quite a system. 10 categories covering the whole verbal landscape.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to imagine an observer juggling all that in real time every 3 seconds.
It takes practice, definitely.
Yeah.
Memorizing those codes is crucial.
I bet. But once you have this stream of numbers, 5, 4, 8, 2, 10, 5, 5, what then? How does that raw data become meaningful? That's the decoding part.
Exactly. After the observation, the encoding, you move to decoding. And the main tool here is a 10 by 10 matrix table.
A matrix, like rows and columns?
Yep. 10 rows, 10 columns, 1 for each category. You take your sequence of numbers and you analyze them in pairs.
Pairs, how does that work?
You look at consecutive numbers. So if your sequence was, say, 10, 5, 4, 8, the first pair is 10 to 5, the second is 5, 4, the third is 4, 8, and so on. For each pair, say 5 to 4, the first number tells you the row, row 5, and the second number tells you the column, column 4. You then put a tally mark in the cell where that row and column intersect.
I see. So you're plotting the transition between types of talk, what typically follows what.
You got it. The matrix builds up a picture of the interaction patterns. It's not just how much lecturing, category 5, happened, but what tended to happen right before or right after the lecturing. Did questions 4 lead to student responses? 8. Did praise 2 follow student initiation? 9.
That sounds powerful. It moves beyond just counting minutes of teacher talk versus student talk.
It does. It shows the flow, the dynamics.
So connecting this to the bigger picture, interpreting this matrix, that's where the gold is, isn't it? Seeing those patterns tells you about the classroom climate.
Absolutely. You can start to quantify things that felt subjective before.
Like what kind of insights can you pull out?
Well, one basic but really important thing is simply the overall proportion of talk. You count the tallies in columns 1 through 7, that's all teacher talk. Then columns 8 and 9 for pupil talk, and column 10 for silence confusion.
Right.
You calculate the percentage of the total tallies that fall into each of those broad categories. And interestingly, after decades of using FIAS,
There's a typical pattern.
there is. Often you find something around, say, 68% teacher talk.
Wow, over 2/3.
Yeah. Maybe 20% pupil talk, and the remaining 11 or 12% is silence or confusion.
Just knowing that baseline, that average, could make any teacher, or like you said, even a manager, stop and think, what's my ratio?
Exactly, it's a benchmark.
Yeah.
Then you can get more nuanced. Remember, indirect versus direct teacher influence.
Categories 1 to 4 versus 5, 7.
Yeah, you can calculate a ratio, sum up the tallies in the indirect categories, 1, 2, 3, 4, and divide that by the sum of the tallies in the direct categories, 5, 6, 7.
And what does that ratio tell you?
If the ratio is 1 or more, it suggests the teacher's influence tends to be more indirect, more student-centered, perhaps. Less than 1 suggests a more direct, teacher-controlled style.
That's fascinating. A single number giving you a snapshot of the teaching style's leaning.
And you could do something similar for reinforcement style.
How so?
Compare the positive, encouraging categories, 1, 2, 3, with the more critical or controlling ones, 6, 7. So sum of 1 plus 2 plus 3 divided by sum of 6 plus 7.
Okay.
If that ratio is greater than 1, it generally points towards a more positive, encouraging reinforcement pattern from the teacher, often seen as, good teaching practice in that regard.
Right. Emphasizing the positive over the negative.
And one more key metric, the student participation ratio.
How much are the students actually talking?
Exactly. You take the sum of the student talk categories, 8 and 9,
Yeah.
and divide it by the total number of tallies in the whole matrix.
That gives you a straight percentage of student involvement.
Yep. A clear measure of how much of the observed interaction time involves student speaking. Crucial if you're aiming for active learning.
So it's clear how this system helps you understand the dynamics, but how does it actually help teachers improve? What's the practical power here?
Well, that's really where FIAS shines, I think. Its main strength lies in that practical application. First, it provides that objective understanding of what's really happening in terms of interaction. It helps define that classroom climate we talked about.
Moves it from a feeling to data.
Precisely. And because it's data-driven, it acts as a powerful feedback mechanism. Teachers can see their patterns laid out, maybe they lecture more than they thought, or ask fewer open questions.
So they can see, okay, I need to consciously work on using more category 3, building on student ideas.
Exactly. It allows for targeted self-improvement, modifying and controlling their behavior to achieve the kind of interaction they're aiming for, ultimately leading to better instruction.
And is it actually used much in practice?
Oh, widely. It's a standard tool in many teacher education programs, both for pre-service teachers just learning the ropes,
Right.
and for in-service teachers doing professional development. It gives them a concrete way to observe and reflect.
And beyond training.
It's also used quite a bit as a research tool because it's systematic and quantitative. It allows researchers to study teacher behavior, compare different teaching methods, and so on. It provides a common framework.
Okay, it sounds incredibly useful, but this raises the question. No system's perfect, right?
Right.
FIAS must have its limitations too. What are the main things it doesn't capture, or maybe doesn't do so well?
That's a really important point. FIAS is powerful, but it's not a silver bullet. A major limitation is scope. It absolutely cannot describe everything happening in a classroom.
What's the biggest blind spot?
Its primary focus is verbal behavior. It tells you nothing about nonverbal cues.
Like body language, facial expressions, gestures.
Exactly. All that crucial information is missed. A teacher's encouraging smile, a student's confused frown, FIAS doesn't see it.
That seems like a pretty big piece of the puzzle to leave out.
It can be. Another point is that while it includes student talk, the system itself,
Yeah.
the number of categories, it's arguably more focused on the teacher's actions.
A bit teacher-centric.
You could say that, yeah. The nuances of teacher behavior are broken down more finely than the nuances of student behavior.
Okay. Any practical drawbacks?
Well, the process itself, preparing that 10 by 10 matrix, tallying up all those pairs, it can be pretty time consuming, especially if you have a long observation period.
I can imagine. Lots of data entry.
And perhaps the most significant limitation, depending on what you're interested in, FIAS is entirely content-free.
Meaning?
It tells you how people are talking, the pattern of interaction, but tells you absolutely nothing about the quality or the substance of what's being said. Is the lecture brilliant or boring? Are the student questions insightful or superficial? FIAS doesn't know.
So you could have a classroom with a good FIAS profile,
Wow.
lots of indirect influence, student initiation, but the actual learning content could still be poor.
Theoretically, yes. It measures the interaction style, not the educational value of the content being discussed.
That's a critical distinction to keep in mind. Okay, so wrapping this up. We've covered a lot. FIAS gives us this unique lens, doesn't it?
It really does.
It's this systematic way to actually measure and understand those classroom dynamics. Gives you real, concrete insights into how teachers and students talk, the influence styles, the participation levels.
Turns that subjective vibe into something you can actually analyze.
Yeah, it gives it a quantifiable shape. You really do get a new way to look at any learning environment.
But it also leaves us thinking, doesn't it? That point about limitations.
Right, it makes you wonder.
Given that FIAS focuses just on the verbal side, what about all those nonverbal cues? Or other things like the classroom layout, the resources used?
Yeah.
How crucial are those elements for truly effective, engaging learning?
And maybe even more fundamentally, how could we even begin to measure those other factors systematically? If FIAS gives us a model for verbal interaction, what would a model for nonverbal cues or environmental factors look like?
That's the provocative question, isn't it? What else matters, and how do we capture it?
Definitely something to think about. And it makes you consider applying these ideas more broadly, too. How might these principles of interaction analysis play out in, say, work meetings?
Or mentorships, even family dynamics.
Exactly. Lots to mull over. This has been really enlightening.
Glad we could dive into it. It's a classic for a reason.
It certainly is. Thanks for unpacking FIAS with us. And for all of you listening, perhaps think about the interactions in your own world through this new lens until our next deep dive.